time has come, and the ancient oaths are once again being spoken. Choose wisely which order you wish to swear to.
Words of Radiance. I've asked myself many times, why is this generally people's favorite book in the Stormlight Archive so far? I think it has to do with the question why. In the first book of a series, like in life, oftentimes you end up on a path. The story, your family, the author might shove you onto that path. You might not have choice. Like in The Way of Kings, a lot of the characters didn't have a ton of choice, Kaladin specifically, at how he ended up. This book asks the question, why are you doing this? Do you really want to be on this path? Now that you have volition, now that the crisis is over, do you want to stay on this path or not? You get to make that choice. I had a similar experience, and I made the opposite choice of some people. I was on the path to be a scientist, actually. If you're not familiar with this, I was a biochemistry major my freshman year at college. I felt like I'd been shoved onto that path. Not wrongly, I was skilled at those sorts of things. But after that first year, I asked myself, is this the path that I want to be on? I had that moment where I got to make a decision. And I turned and walked a different direction. I walked down the path of being a novelist instead. Turned completely from everything I had been studying and started over. I think those moments are really important moments in our lives. The moments where we get to decide for ourselves and change our momentum. This book is about characters having that momentum and making decisions about whether they're going to stay on that path, whether they're going to find a different path, and what that means for them. I think books that ask important questions are books that often resonate with readers. And I would say that is at the core of why people love Words of Radiance so much. I hope you've enjoyed our campaign talking about the different orders of Knights Radiant. And I hope you've been watching the videos that we've released, written by Dan, in World, which talk about what each of the different orders means, and a little more depth for some of the orders so far. If you haven't taken your quiz yet, now's the time, because it's going to matter, because we're going to ask you to pick an order when you sign up for this. This was my idea originally. I wanted to be able to self-select. I wanted to have this quiz so that I could figure out for myself, well and truly, which order I'd belong to. And I thought that people would really enjoy, as they sign up, being able to get personalized swag identified with their specific order. This campaign is set up similarly to our Way of Kings campaign, but please read carefully. One thing to keep in mind is that we found that we didn't need quite as many stretch goals as we put last time, and so we took a lot of those things that we did as stretch goals last time, and we just added them into the campaign, assuming and knowing that you would just want to get them again. This book was originally going to be called something different. When I outlined the first 5 books of the Stormlight Archive, I gave each book a title, a working title. I haven't kept most of them, but it was a bit of guidance for me. This book had a different title. It was going to reference a concept I'd come up with called the Book of Endless Pages. This idea that for a scientist, for someone exploring the world, you can never fill the book that describes the experience of being human. You can never fill the book with everything there is to know. So the book must have endless pages, because as long as we are still exploring, as long as we're still asking questions, as long as we're still seeking answers, then we live, and science lives, and we fill those pages with answers that ask more questions. And I love that concept. I loved both that concept in a religious sense, that we are seeking truth, in a scientific sense, that we are seeking answers, and a life sense, that we are always asking what the next day will bring. That the Book of Endless Pages can never be filled, but that is a feature of the Book of Endless Pages. And I thought that was an awesome title until I said it to my editor. And he laughed. And I said, oh, That is not the response you want. Now, sometimes when you get very into a book, one of the things that happens is you start to think of the book as an object, and you start to lose all context and sense of what the world might think of it. When I had named this book of Endless Pages, he said, "You're really going to name a book that is going to be over 1,000 pages long, the Book of Endless Pages? Every reviewer will laugh at you. We cannot name it that." Fortunately, I had a backup. I'd been working on this idea of Words of Radiance as the in-world book, and it actually ended up matching better. Had a little bit of crisis, but eventually arrived at the right title. Thank you to everyone who has backed before, and to everyone who's coming for the first time. My company, Dragonsteel, this is how we make the bulk of our income. This is how we survive, is these campaigns. And so you directly support all of us here, all 50 of us who work to make these books for you. I think you are going to love what you get.
Your words are accepted.